Oh, daddy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Anime Club After Dark, the podcast that delves into all things anime, manga, and otaku culture related. I'm your host, Alex, but you can call me Senpai, and joining me tonight, I have our poser extraordinaire, Natai.
It's finally here. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've been trying to do this recording for almost a month now, and every time we try to get together to do it, it keeps getting pushed back.
Because, we've been doing so many, different episodes and Spoilercast in between, this one and the last Monogatari we did. Things just got in the way, but we're like, maybe it's not such a bad idea to take, a good break, because we've been going through the series, in quite a quick pace, it feels like.
Yeah, we've kind of been doing it, twice a month. Honestly, we haven't had 2 Spoilercasts a month come out, but we've been recording about 2 Monogatari Spoilercasts a month.
That's right.
For at least the last, I want to say it's been at least the last 6 months, almost. So we did take a break, but yeah, we're back, and it's finally time, Natai, to finish up second season.
It's actually time.
We finished up second season. The actual second season last time with Koi Monogatari, aka Hitagi End.
Yeah, but now, Hanamonogatari is still a part of the, let's call it, section of the series that is called second season.
It is. But
it was released,
while the
after
anime,
the, original, quote-unquote, second season.
Yeah, while the anime adaptation itself did get released after the anime part called second season finished airing, it's interesting that the light novel that this is based off of was actually released in the middle of the other second season light novels, almost smack dab in the middle.
Yeah, so Shaft sort of played around with the order, which kind of makes sense. It seems like the thought process was, we have 26 episodes for second season, and we have all of these different arcs. Now, again, as you said, in the light novels, Hanamonogatari actually takes place, was released after, I think it was Otori Monogatari, Nanako Medusa's arc.
I believe so,
So
yes.
It was released after that. So, right after you have this, very, intense and very heavy arc about oh shit, Nadeko has gone mad and now she's threatening to kill Koyomi and Hitagi and whatnot. You have this arc, Hanamonogatari, which spoilers, starts with a Kanmuru joking about, oh, my senpais are gone because they left for college. So it sort of teases that. But Chef sort of, and I'm kind of glad that Chef did it, because this is a very Niseo thing to do, I think, to just deflate all the tension when you feel like it. But Chef pretty much decided to finish second season with Hitagi End and just shuffle the order on and put out Hanamonogatari after they finished their 26 episode run.
Yeah, and I think that was actually a good call on Shaft's
Definitely.
part, honestly.
I'm very happy that you decided to do that.
So before we get into the actual meat of the story and talk about this, let's get into a little bit of technical info. So this was originally released as an OVA series, a 5-episode OVA series, and it was edited together after the fact as a movie. So there's 2 different ways, really, that you can watch this. I think you and I both watched the OVA version, correct?
Yeah, it's the movie edit, let's call it, that is on Crunchyroll.
Yeah. And the OP and the ED. So this is kind of interesting. So originally the OP was Shirushi by Marina Kawano, and the ED was Last Day of My Adolescence by Miyuki Sawashiro, who was also the voice actor for Kambaru.
Which is interesting because Shirushi is very much a classic ED art style sort of theme, and it's very present an ED. While Last Day of My Adolescence feels like an actual proper OP. It's just just switch them around.
So that's how it was originally done in the OVAs when they were originally put out. But when the series was put together in the Blu-ray release for Hanamonogatari, the OPs and the EDs were switched around.
Which
so if you are watching the Blu-ray version, you're actually going to see those flipped around.
Which is interesting because the OP, I kind of like they put it in the end. It feels like it sort of gives a lot of details, you know? It feels a bit too much. It feels more impactful as well when you watch it by the end, because like it's very like you're presented with all these different shots, like very emotional, but I think they're so emotional because I watched them at the end of the story when you have all the context for this opening, right? Like it hits harder, it hits differently. I can't imagine watching it before the arc, so like feels like it gives away a lot of details, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see it both ways, honestly. But I do agree that the original OP, which becomes the ED, which is Shibushi, definitely has that classic Monogatari ED feeling.
Now, I have a question. Which Kanbaru opening do you like better? This one, or like Last Day of My Adolescence, or the Bakemonogatari OP she had?
The Bakemonogatari OP.
Nah,
I do, yeah.
This one is so good.
Not to say that this is inherently bad.
True.
I just like the Bakemonogatari one more.
Oh, I love this one. It feels so much more Kanbaru. Like I love the sort of punk rock vibe of the song. Is what it.
Well, and it's very basketball as well.
Very, very much basketball.
Much basketball.
Much basketball.
So
much
loud.
pain.
Yes, much pain.
I love it.
And so, and something else I did want to get into before we actually got into this. So, some of you may know this. We stream pretty regularly, both on Twitch and on YouTube.
Twitch.tv/Anime
If you
Club
haven't
After
followed
Dark.
us, yes, Twitch.tv/Anime Club After Dark. I would say put a couple inches in your penis, but I feel like that's
Charlie's bit, yeah.
That's trademarked at this point. I can't say that. But while we were doing a stream a couple of weeks ago, someone I'm sorry, I cannot remember who it was that said it. If this is you, please make yourself known in the comments below, wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Had mentioned to us that the entire reason that they got into the Monogatari series was because of listening to us talk about it. So that just absolutely makes me flabbergasted.
Yeah,
like, thank you,
awesome.
first of all, for taking the time to listen to it, and the fact that just hearing us and our passion for it got you to finally sit down and watch something, that just means a lot to me. And I'm sure to Natalia.
Yeah. Really, it's like it's when I wish I wrote down your name, because like when I saw that on stream, I was
really
like,
wish too. Like seriously,
it's kind of like
if you're listening to this, like, you know, however long after we publish this, it is like, seriously, make yourself known in the comments, because like I will fucking pin this on YouTube if you just make yourself known.
It's just like when I read that comment, it was sort of like, oh shit, that's awesome. Like it really, like I was just like genuinely happy. It was a really, really cool feeling, you know. So thank you.
Yes. So let's actually get into Hanamonogatari.
Let's do it.
So I want to ask you something, Natai, because this is your third time rewatching Hana?
This is my third time. Yeah, this is the third time watching it.
So when you first watched it, how did you feel about Hana in relation to other parts of Monogatari?
I liked it. I thought it was like just a really good solid arc. I had my sort of like, I wasn't too sure of it, like what to feel about it. Just like, yeah, a lot of the arcs I have like this, like to some extent you have this very emotional connection to. And when I watched Hana, I was like, that was really good. Like I was just kind of just having a good time with it, and that's about it. But
not bad, but certainly not like great.
It didn't like blow my mind, but I really enjoyed it. Like it wasn't like there are very few arcs in Monogatari which I didn't look forward to rewatching them. But Hana was one I was like, yeah, I'm down to watching it again. And I think with each rewatch I appreciate it more.
See, I'm beginning to feel the same way. So when I first watched it, and when I got done with my original watch through of Monogatari back a few years ago, Hana was my least favorite part of the entire series.
Which that was beyond me. Like I didn't know why you felt like that way.
Well, I think part of it is because it comes right after something that is so strong, Hitagi End. Like, how do you follow that? Like, really?
Yeah, but
you got to admit that
I don't know. It felt like a good
like
a good sort of closure arc for second season. Like it felt like I just really enjoyed, and again with time sort of more appreciated what the arc was going for in terms of like Kanbaru was her journey as like been sort of in stasis and feeling like very alone and stuck in time or whatever. I just really like connected with that. Really I liked it. But I remember like talking to you over the years about Hana, and like your reasons for like disliking it were kind of like beyond me. Like I know one of the reasons you didn't like it much is like spoilers, but like Araragi isn't the alcohol that much, which was like I was sort of surprised that was one of your issues with it.
Yeah, well, a lot like you, though, I feel like with additional rewatches, I am liking this arc more and more and more, and I appreciate more about what it was able to do, especially coming after such a strong story arc as Hitagi ends.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But anyway, let's get into it. Episode 1. So, we get to see Kamburu's mom, kinda, sorta.
For the first time, yeah.
I mean, it's kind of in silhouette mostly, but we do get to hear her and see her. She's given a voice, and she's kind of a bitch.
Yeah, Kamuro's mom is an interesting character because, like, she's mentioned every now and then, but only, like, and now with retrospect, I understand, going forward, she is much more, like, of a figure in this world. You know, she was, at least when she was alive. So it's interesting. This is her introduction. She's very, very strange. She's like her monologue at the beginning is very confusing. Like
she almost speaks in metaphors.
Yeah, it's like she's just like fucking around with Kamburu's head. It's like okay. She's a very interesting figure, but like as the series will keep moving forward, we'll get more details about her to some extent.
Yeah, I can see now why Kaiki likes her though.
I mean, yeah. We'll get to Kaiki. May he rest in peace.
I mean, I feel like they would have been a really good match. Just saying.
Can you imagine Kaiki as a dad? Oh, wait a second.
Wait a minute. I think we can in just a couple episodes. But yeah, so this after the whole monologue with what's actually really a dialogue that Kamburu is remembering between herself and her mother.
Yeah.
We have this monologue from Kamburu teasing the fact that both Hitagi and Koyomi are gone,
and I love that.
And she still has the Devil's Arm that they were working on getting rid of.
I want to go back to the detail review because again, it's such a fucking Nisio move to do. With like you start this arc in the middle of your like second season, and you just like had this like whole like drama thing about Nadeko is gonna kill them and and then you fast forward a couple months, like half a year by that point, because this arc takes place in April. And it starts with Kanamura talking about, oh, I miss my senpais, Hitagi and Aragi. It's a shame they're gone because they moved to college. Like, it's like, it's like teasing that they're dead, but it's like, oh no, they just moved to college.
Yeah, there is that implication that they're dead. And I feel like if they had actually had the anime adaptation for this come out in the middle of second season, it would have completely eradicated a lot of the tension that we felt in Hitagi End. So I'm again another reason why I'm glad that Shaft did this the way that they did with the release schedule.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that. But it also I just love that how because sometimes like not to that extent, but I get that feeling when like you're maybe you're in like I had a similar feeling to some extent while I was in the army. So like at a certain point, all my friends who drafted before me left, and I felt that sort of feeling like, oh, they're gone, they're alone. It's not the same here without them. And I like that sort of like that feeling that you explore in this arc in some ways.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. And then as Conver is walking to school, musing on this fact, an old friend shows up, Natai.
Spooky Oogie has arrived.
Spooky Oogie. And Spooky Oogie has I was going to try and find a word that rhymes with penis that sounded like Oogie, but I can't.
God damn it.
Oogie is now a boy. How? Who the fuck knows?
Yeah, she just arrives like wearing like a male's uniform, and I love how Kanburu is like, "Oh, why are you wearing a male uniform?" And Oogie is like, "I've always been a boy."
What are you talking about? I was always a boy. And Kanburu's
like, "Okay," she just goes on.
Just goes with it. It's like, okay, we're just gonna gloss over this. It's fine. But again, here comes Ogi just to set shit in motion and then just fuck off.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things about second season as a whole is like Ogi is just there every now and then. She's just there. No much explanation. She's just there. And I love the intrigue that's built.
However you want to go with it.
He like, oh, man, Monogatari sure is progressive.
Yeah, it was ahead of its time. But Ogi is like whispering sweet nothings into Komburu's ear about the old Devil Sama, a person that just kind of goes around helping people, sounding a lot like what Araragi used to do.
Yeah, it's like it's literally like she also talks about specifically like, oh, like this person, this devil, someone doesn't like ever take money or anything like that. He just helps people. It's like, like a certain pervert person I know.
Yeah, I know. Um, and then obviously, Komfru goes and tries to find out more information about it, and she calls Karen and Tsukihi.
Gefaya shishtar.
Yeah, Gefaya Sistas.
Yeah, so like she contacts Karen about it as well, like because she hears about it from Ogi, and then she hears about it from Higasa, one of her classmates, and then
Yes.
Karen's like found out more details about how you can contact her. Like she just like the whole shtick with this devil sama, that's that you ask them for help, and then like all your worries disappear and you feel better. Which sounds kind of weird. So with the help of Karen, Kanbur actually managed to find this devil sama.
Yes, and it's someone that we have not seen yet, but we have heard about.
Oh yeah, we've heard it like in the previous arc.
In the previous arc, we heard it from Kaiki himself in Hitagi End. The devil is Numichi Roka,
Which I forgot about it till this rewatch of Itagi. I never remembered that he like actually spoke her name, like mentioned it.
He name drops her just like casually and just goes, "Okay, bye."
And it's like, oh, I met this girl named Numichi Roka. It's like, what?
What? This name sounds like we should know this. But so we meet Roka. She has these bandages on her leg, explains that she's still in rehab, and we kind of get this I guess flashback you could call it from Kombu. It's like, hey, they used to like be rivals in basketball when they were in middle school, and Roka ended up hurting her leg and had to like kind of retire from playing basketball.
Quit playing basketball, yeah. And it seems like ever since,
and she wasn't able to take the entrance exams either. Yeah. So she's roughly the same age as Kombu, but she's not in school and she's unemployed and she has a bum leg, basically.
So she's basically she has all the time in the world to like go around and like do and help people, which
exactly
like her motive.
She has more time to do this shit than Koyomi did.
Which the motive for her helping people is like really the cool shtick about her character, actually.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that. So when you have this whole conversation between them in the first episode, Roka lays out the whole reason that she does it, and she kind of does it because of Schadenfreude. Like, she feels better by listening to the fact that other people have problems, and like internally she's like, at least I'm not you.
Which is interesting. Like, I think a lot of people have been in that situation of afraid is coming like for advice, or is like in a very not necessarily a dark place, but like in a very quote unquote miserable place. So like a very like they're just like have all these things on their minds, and like they have all these things that like just like troubling them and whatnot, and you're just like listening to them, and that sort of like twisted view of it, of like she does it because it makes her feel better about stuff and less shitty about herself, is like kind of like interesting, you know?
Yeah. I was wondering, like, do you think that what she does is good? Because what she's doing essentially is she's putting this out there that, hey, there's this devil that solves problems, and people can come to her either, you know, they can show up in person like Comber did, they can write letters, or they can call. They tell the problems, and then since most of the issues that people come to her with are trivial, she just says, okay, I'll take care of it, and like the burden is kind of lifted somewhat off of other people's shoulders, and typically these trivial issues kind of go away on their own, as most trivial issues do when you stop worrying about them. But she also, for larger problems that come her way, she does forward it on to the proper authorities, like police, like investigators, like, you know, medical professionals, whatever it happens to be. So I can see people thinking that what she does is bad because she's essentially lying to people, saying that she's going to solve problems, and she doesn't. But she also does like forward on actual problems that need to be solved to the proper authorities. So she, and also really like something bad.
And also like to be, oh my god, to be devil's advocate. there's like there's like an interesting argument to be had where it's like, well, she is just letting people like have a place to speak and share like their like things that are like bothering them, because like not to get too heavy,
you'd be surprised at how many trivial issues can be resolved just by
talking about
about
not to get too heavy. Like a lot of people need that sort of space, whether it be like friends or family, that they can just like let it all out and talk about their problems.
That's kind of what psychiatric therapy is all about.
Yeah, sort of. So there is like an argument to be had. It's just like her view of it is kind of like very twisted, you know?
She's doing it's like she's doing the right thing for the wrong reason, because she's doing it because she wants to feel that Schadenfreude, that she wants to feel like she wants to like bask in other people's misery.
Yeah.
But she's also doing good things because she's taking burdens off of people with trivial problems, and she's forwarding like actual problems onto the right people who can do something about them.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I don't think that what she's doing, and she's not taking any money for this either. Like, if she were taking money for this and then not doing stuff, yeah, I would see that being a problem. But the fact that she's taking no money for this, yeah, she's doing it for very selfish reasons. But the end result is typically positive.
And I like how she sort of like, from all the time of her like taking all these like sometimes even very stupid like requests and like things that people ask of her, because she doesn't do anything with most of it. She just lets people talk to her. And I love how she sort of like one of her conclusions that came from that is like she even says like the time will fix anything if you just like stop worrying about it and forget about it. Like things will fix themselves, which is kind of like a nihilistic view, I think. Like I don't know if I agree with that wholeheartedly, but it sure is interesting.
Time alone will solve some issues, particularly very trivial issues. But like, I don't think as a general rule, time will solve eventually everyone that has the issue will be dead. So I guess in a literal sense, time.
Yeah, but I don't think like if you just stop worrying about things, they'll just solve themselves, you know?
Yeah. And Kambru like mentions this too. She's like, it just sounds like you're talking about people running away from their problems.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the issue that Kambru takes with it. I also love that this conversation between them ends with Roka just like fondling her tits. So that's nice.
Oh, but that just pandering to that kangaroo fetish, you know, just being a lesbian and whatnot.
Yeah. That was actually one of my original like criticisms of Hanamonogatari. It's like they should have just like just embrace it. Just fuck. Just you two fuck.
Right, because we saw that before in this series.
Yeah, I also love how as she's walking away and she's going back home, she texts Koyomi
yes,
about how she got her tits fondled by a girl, and he's like, "What? Tell me more."
When can I?
Can I?
I love the text with Koyomi. It's great. It's awesome.
And it's funny because you don't know at first who she sends a text to because it doesn't say. You only find out later who she sends the text to, and you kind of get a sense that maybe she sent it to Hitagi and not Koyomi.
But no,
then
it's
you
Koyomi.
See the response, and you know it's definitely Koyomi.
That's sick. Fuck.
And then so. There's also sort of this flashback that Kambru has about her mom telling her that, you know, worrying about things is typically a waste of time.
Sort of going back to that, like, this idea of, like, if you stop worrying about things, they'll just, like, you know, blow over.
Yeah. And then we flash forward to the next morning, which is April 10th, and she wakes up and finds out, her devil arm, the rainy devil arm that she had, is magically healed. It's back to the way it was. And that's how the first episode ends.
Which is like a great hook. I think that's one of like the best hooks we have had, like in terms of like beginning of the arcs. Like in general, this first episode, I think it's a really solid opener for this arc.
The funny thing about it is that when she wakes up, she doesn't immediately realize that we the audience do, because we see her arm being healed. She doesn't immediately realize that her arm is restored, and she's just going through the motions of wrapping it up like she always does. And like halfway through, she realizes, wait a minute.
And then
where's all the hair?
And then when she goes for that run in the morning and she like starts running, and you know she's sort of like off balance because she's not used to her arm not weighing so much with the devil's arm, and then she like falls over and trips over. Then like it hurts and she starts crying because she feels so like she has this sort of
She
happiness.
feels something. She finally feels
yeah,
something.
I think she's happy. I think that's like just pure joy of like, oh, I can like feel something again. Like it's gone. Like it's back to normal.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
Yeah.
It's
So
fantastic.
So we get episode 2, which you've kind of alluded to at the very beginning of it. But she's also been told that the devil has vanished.
Yeah, it's like it's sort of like interesting, like, and she's trying to figure out like why did the arm leave, like what happened.
Yeah, so and she goes trying to look for Roka, but no one seems to like know where she is, what she's doing. So she gets on a train, she goes to another town, and when she leaves the station, of course, her friend Higasa is with her and goes the opposite way. But the second she's alone, who the fuck shows up but our man Kaiki?
The goat is back.
The goat is back. So obviously this reveals that his like demise, so to speak, at the end of Hitagi End was not real. I have a theory about that.
Okay.
I think the whole thing with him getting beaten up, he actually paid that middle schooler to beat him up to
You
maintain
think so?
appearances. I do.
But like, it's an interesting thought, and like maybe it did stage it because we know like something's going on in the background. Like literally, the end of the second season is like with the boy like, Ogi told me you're the one who caused all this, and he lashes out at him. And
Yeah.
I maybe I don't know if it's staged. I think he actually like just barely survived that. Although it could be with
maybe.
Kaiki, you can never know. Like literally, he's like an unreliable narrator.
He is. He's a very unreliable. Who knows? Did it even happen? I don't know.
How'd you like the goatee look?
The goatee Kaiki is best Kaiki. I don't care what anyone says.
It's up there. It's up there. Like I like Hawaiian short Kaiki as much as the next dude, but I love goatee Kaiki. It's great. With the old suit back.
And the fact that he just the funny thing is when Kaworu tries to run away from him, he just goes like all full Sonic mode and just runs in front of her.
Dude, that running animation is fantastic, and like, it
is.
And I love when like she's exhausted and he picks her up, like you pick up a cat and she like whips her and she's like, I love that.
That sound that she makes, I'm convinced that no human being can make that sound.
So fucking good.
It sounds like a fucking wipers on a car.
I love that. I love, it's again, it sort of again reinforces that sort of notion that every time like the cast and anyone in the cast meets Kaiki, most of the time it's like one of the high schoolers, and whenever it happens, the show does such a good job of like sort of like getting you to notice, oh, okay, all these like high schools, they're like they shit talk and they pretty smart, I guess, but goddamn, like they have nothing on Kaiki, nothing.
Absolutely,
just destroys them.
So Kaiki convinces Kaworu to come with him to a restaurant and has one of the best conversations I think I've ever seen in Monogatari.
I love this scene.
There's been some good conversations in Monogatari, but this one is good.
It's such a great scene. It's so, sort of like chill, there isn't much tension, and it's just like, just Kanaburo and Kaiki talking and eating meat, and it's great.
And the whole thing plays out like every time you see like a pan or a cut to Kamuro's face, she can't really decide whether she should trust him or not, because she knows who he is.
Yeah.
Because Hitagi has told her about him.
Yeah. She knows all of the
so
things he did.
He's not sure what to believe, because she's been told all these things from Hitagi about Kaiki, and then when he's actually in front of her, doesn't seem anything like Hitagi has led her on to believe.
So you have this scene that's most of the time it's just Kaiki trying to like, because let's go back to fucking all the way back to Nisei Monogatari when Kaiki like met Araragi in front of Kanbaru's house. Ever since then, like when he got to town, he knew Kanbaru was there and was trying to meet her somewhere. So this is like,
and he was trying to get close to people who knew
yeah
him.
So all this led up to this moment of him talking to him. You have this entire scene of him trying to convince her, I'm on your side, I'm here for you. Like it's great. I love this thing. It's so good.
I also like you get a lot of backstory too that we haven't gotten yet about her actual mother.
Yeah.
And her aunt, who we have met, Izuko. And we also get a lot of backstory between Kaiki and Kanbaru's mother, Toei. Their relationship, it was a friendship that they had in college, and like there were some unrequited feelings that Kaiki had for her, and he got very bitter about the fact that she got married and had a kid, and then
And I love how when she points,
died.
and I love when when Kanbur points that out, that it's like, oh, you're not calling me by my father's like name, like my name, Kanbur. You calling me by my mother's name, and it's like, and she's like calling it out. It's like sort of trying to shake it off, and it's like not real. It's like it's not that big of a deal, but obviously, like he had feelings for her. It's very, very obvious.
And then, well, and you mentioned the whole naming thing, and it's like he doesn't want to call her by her father's name, and he doesn't want to really call her by her mother's name. And so she's like, "Well, why don't you just call me Sugura? Because that's my fucking first name." And he's like, "Are you sure?" Because like that's a cultural thing, right? Like in the West, it's not a big deal to call people by their first names. In the East, particularly Japan, calling someone by their given name is a big deal. It's more of like a thing between like family members or lovers or really good friends.
Yeah, I mean. And here we go again, that theory that maybe Kaiki is Kanburu's dad. It's like, I love that theory because it's not necessarily like 100% probably the truth, but like I can buy it, that maybe that's like a dynamic that we don't know of, like he is her dad.
I feel like it's a missed opportunity. Knowing what I know now, I don't think he is. I actually do think that the whole unrequited love thing actually makes Kaiki more endearing, because like he's just trying to keep this promise to Toei that he wasn't able to keep while she was alive. But there's a part of me that really wishes it was true, that they had a child, that Toei got pregnant, and to cover up the fact that it wasn't Kaiki's child, she immediately just got married to another guy.
Yeah, like I love the dynamic that it's sort of like kept in secret.
I know, like,
I love
and there's just enough like half truths that Kaiki throws out there to make you think, well, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's also that part in the scene where Kaiki gives Kanburu like his calling card, and I want to point out, so right before he gives it to her, he takes it back and he writes something on it, or he crosses out, and then you see it back again. What he's crossed out is the Ghostbuster thing, and so all you can see is his name.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
He doesn't want her to think of him as a con man or a Ghostbuster. He wants Kanburu to think of her just as Kaiki.
I didn't even notice that he crossed that out. That's so interesting.
He crosses out his profession, and it just leaves his phone number and his name.
Huh. And then
he doesn't want her to think of him as anything but just Kaiki.
Interesting. That's actually, I didn't pick up on that. Huh.
And that proves to me that Kaiki, despite all of his secrecy, all of his half truths and lies, he genuinely cares about Kanburu.
And that's the point of the scene, to some extent.
He wants her to be good. And he wants her to have a good life. He wants her to be protected. And he wants to protect her.
And that's like what he's trying to do for, like, he even talks about it. It's like probably all this time, like Itagi and Arugi told her all the things he did, and she might think of him as like an evil person, but it's like all he's trying to do, like he's not trying to cheat Kanburu or swindle her or anything. He's like he's just trying to help her. That's like his mission in this thing. He's trying to like get her to trust him.
Yeah. Another thing it's pointed out, and I think it's a great point that Kaiki makes, is that no single person is always pure evil or always pure good.
Yeah.
Like, there's no such thing as either of those. And I think that's generally true in the real world, too.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we know Kaiki, like, as a character, was presented as, like, this evil bad guy, this menacing person. And then, like literally a few episodes after his reveal, you see him just eating donuts, like, outside of town. Because he's just a guy.
Like when the first time you see him and they do the close-up on his face, there's the word threat in his eyes.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
Also, he reveals to her that he knew about the mummified monkey's paw, and that he was the one who had entrusted, or he knew about the fact that her mother entrusted her with the monkey paw, and he warned her not to use it.
He's even like saying her, like, there's a collector, like she should probably like give that collector that like monkey paw, so that's why like she's safer away from it,
Yeah. Doesn't mention who the collector is, just says that there's a collector, and if you find this collector, you should probably just give it up.
And then that final section of like before he leaves, he's like, by the way, eat meat. He's like repeating that, eat meat, 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 meat. I fucking love that.
So I have taken. There's a couple of ways I could take this, and there's one way I kind of think I want to take it, but I don't know if it makes Kaiki a good person or not. I think he knows that she's a lesbian, and I don't think he approves. And I think that's what the whole meat thing is supposed to be a reference
I love that
to.
interpretation. I really like that. Like, I couldn't think of it, like obviously it's like, oh, you need to grow a bit more, you need to like to eat more meat and whatnot. So, like, yeah, there is the literal sense of it, but I kind of like that interpretation. It's like, I know, like, chicks and all, but please stop.
Yeah, women are great, but cocks are pretty great too. I mean, there's this one cock you really like.
Oh my god,
it's attached to Koyomi.
He's taken. Leave it.
I don't know. I know there's a couple of different interpretations I've read about that, and that's my favorite though, is the fact that like he knows that she's into women and he doesn't approve.
God damn it, Papa Kaiki.
Anyway, so that's pretty much how the second episode ends. So we get on to episode 3, and we have a confrontation between Kanbaru and Roka.
Yeah, Kamuro meets up with Roka again after Kaiki reveals Numachi's location.
Yeah, and we find out that she is indeed the collector that Kaiki mentioned, because she reveals that she has the devil's left arm.
Yeah, which apparently that's why she touched Kanbaru's boob, aside from just like, why not? I guess that's how she stole it.
I mean, yeah, why wouldn't you want to touch her boobs, though?
Yeah. Not disagreeing.
And then she's like, "Hey, want to do some one-on-one? Because we're here with a basketball court."
God damn it. I think that was part of your fantasy more than the actual show, Alex. Let's be honest.
I mean, I'd love to see a one-on-one between them. Just not that kind of one-on-one.
Shaft, it's fine. You don't indulge this guy, please. Don't indulge this man.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that Roka seems to be, shall we say, disabled because of her leg, it's all an act. Because when she does the one-on-one with Kanbaru, she is more than a match for Kanbaru's basketball skills.
Yeah.
And she doesn't seem to have the limp at all when she's going down the court.
Yeah. She's quick, she's fast. It's like kind of like when Kanbaru used the devil arm to fight Araragi. She was like very, very, very scary.
And then they kiss.
And just imagine you like holding the two toys. Then now you kiss, pushing it against each other.
Okay, now kiss.
Now kiss. Yeah.
Where was I going with this? I got distracted.
You distracted me with this fucking scene I've had in my mind now. Anyway.
So no, she one of the things that she reveals during their whole spill the tea session after the one-on-one is the fact that how she got started doing this. When Roka was in the hospital because of her leg injury, someone had come to her and told her about their issues. And while she was sitting there, with her leg injuries, she had that feeling. It's like, well, at least I'm not you. At least I don't have it that bad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how she got started with it. She just talked to her, and then that person came back and said that their problems were gone. And then she felt like, well, I can just keep doing this. I felt good.
Yeah. And then she just kept going with it. She just kept it going, like talking to people and like...
I tell you, Schadenfreude is a hell of a drug.
I know, right? It's like, I also like, there's also like one point like that Kanbaru like noticed, like when she was playing against a Numachi, is that like how quick she was. It sort of reminds her of Itagi when she was running, which again like goes back to that point of like being stuck on that, like sort of like stuck in place. It's sort of like remembering all these things in the past and like the people that are around her anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like how,
and it's funny. So during this, there's something that Roka says that is kind of thrown in Kanbaru's face. It's something that's been said multiple times at this point in the Monogatari series about people being the best way to solve their own problems. Man,
yep.
It's almost like Monogatari is like has an overarching like lesson it's trying to teach people, and it keeps shoving it in people's faces.
Yeah, I forgot how, like, throughout this rewatch, I forgot how many times it's, like, pointed out this fact that, like, you can only save yourself.
Yeah.
And you get it tackled from so many different like angles. And again, this one's like people are not trying to help themselves; they just need someone to like sort of listen to them, and that will sort of help them get over it or whatever, you know.
Yeah. And so Roka, a lot of this episode is literally just this conversation between Roka and Kambru. And there's a lot that's gone into. Some of it's not all that important. But I mean, we kind of have the point already that Roka is someone who just absolutely obsesses over the misfortune of others. And then she found out after she had hurt her leg that it was never going to function the way it did before.
Yeah.
Right. And so she knew that she wasn't going to be anywhere near as shall we say, physically active as she was ever able to be in the past. So she decided to make collecting misery an actual hobby, which is a hobby I wouldn't get into, but that's not for me to say. And so part of what happened during all of this is that, like, because she had collected so much misery, she had, like, her leg had transformed into this, like, creature.
Yeah. No, her leg.
Devil's
so
leg.
she goes in more details how she got the devil's leg. That's mainly like a person like that happens in the next episode, which she does how she actually found the leg. But mostly, we in this section of like the arc, we sort of get why she started way before she had the devil's parts. Why she sort of like started quote unquote collecting misery, and how like that got her to where she is, and how through that she actually met up with Kaiki. Like they actually, this reputation of her grew, and like she came in contact with Kaiki, who was like trying not to step on each other's business, so to speak. They sort of like exchanged information and just like went on their way. And like when she met him, that's how she like came across like the whole thing with apparitions and whatnot. And
yeah, and in a way, like they're kind of the same. Like they're both conning people. They're just doing it in very different ways.
One of them does it like as a business,
and
she
difference is,
and she does it for like her own.
A big difference is Kaiki is stealing people's money.
Yeah, but she like sort of like does it for her own selfish reasons. It's just like most of the time she's like not harming anyone.
And she essentially now has this quest to like get all of the different Rainy Devil parts together.
Which then we in the fourth episode, that's where we arrive at this story. And when she talks about like actually meeting this like classmate, Ruka Anadori, who actually asked for help. She also approached her asking for help about like a certain situation she has at home.
That I want to say that threw me for a loop the very first time I watched this.
Oh yeah.
That there were two Rokas, and I didn't put that together at first.
Yeah, it's
I
confusing.
thought that she was talking about that she met herself, and I'm thinking, wait, what? Or is this a cousin?
I met my true
is this
self.
A sister? I don't know. I don't know. Just the fact that there were two people named Roka, like that, just threw me for a loop the first time I watched this.
Oh yeah, it's like most of the time like Monogatari doesn't like like if like the characters come across like a certain other person who's not that relevant to like the whole overarching story of Dark, like they'll just be known as like a person or a family member or whatnot. But like both with Higasa and now like the second Roka, like actually like give it full names, like probably like a very small detail, doesn't matter a whole lot, but like sort of like I don't know, caught my eye, I guess.
I don't know. It's a weird decision there by Nisio Isin, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
The first time I watched this, I had to like rewind it, and it's like, wait a minute, what? You talk to yourself?
She's a Linkin Park fan.
Yeah. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
Anyway, so she comes across this like classmate, and apparently there's this whole like side story about this like classmate who got pregnant from a boyfriend, and obviously she's a high schooler, so her mother didn't approve, and she wanted like to just pretty much do an abortion. So like this student, so she actually came across this devil's leg, and she wished upon like somehow to be able to be with her boyfriend and keep the baby, which caused her leg to transform and start kicking her mother till she was hospitalized. Because that's how
kind of like what happened with Compru in the monkey's paw.
Pretty much a monkey's paw. It's actually part of the devil's. Like part. And when Nomachi actually talked to her and sort of like and she heard her story, she acquired the leg somehow after doing that, because I guess that sort of like led that student, like she sort of like got was relieved to share the story with someone, and that led to Nomachi acquiring the devil's leg.
Yeah. I also like the fact the conversation sort of ends with Roka pointing out to Kanbru, and I think this is largely true, how if you appear to be disabled in some way, people just inherently trust you more.
Yeah.
And I think this is true in real life as well. Like,
that's a really interesting observation.
There's this like degree of trust that people seem to innately have with people who at least appear to be disabled in some way, because I don't know if it's like just a failing of the human mind that you just immediately go to, well, someone who's disabled surely won't do anything to harm me when you see them.
It's also trust, but I think it's also because it comes from a place, like, maybe it's very like negative to think of it, but I think it also comes from a place of pity to some extent. That people,
well, she kind of mentions that it's like people like see someone who's disabled, especially someone who's physically disabled, who has a very obvious physical disability, and your immediate thought is, "Aw."
Sort of, yeah.
And it's not necessarily a good thing either.
It's a really interesting observation.
Yeah. It's great that she pointed that out, because like one of the obvious questions is, well, if you're not actually disabled anymore because of this, why are you still running around with a limp? And you don't actually have to. Well, that's why, because if I appear to be disabled, people will inherently trust me a lot easier. And it kind of is different from how Kanbru went about it. Like, it's not as much of a disability, I guess, as the leg injury that Roka originally sustained, but her running around with the Rainy Devil arm, like, she just hit it and she went on with her life pretty much as normal.
Yeah, pretty much.
She didn't play basketball anymore, but I mean, more or less, she went on with her life as normal.
Yeah.
So, kind of a very different what's the phrase I'm looking for? Very different approaches to how they each went about having these different parts of the Rainy Devil on them.
Yeah. And that's sort of like the thing that Nomachi at the end sort of like wishes for Kanbru to just, like, go back to her regular lives now that she is like doesn't have the devil's arm, go back and like just have a regular high school life,
Yeah. Let me collect the misery. You go have a good life.
Yeah.
And then after they part ways, Kanbru receives a call from Carrot, and she reveals, dun dun dun, Roka's been dead this whole time.
I see dead people.
I see dead people. That was actually kind of a shock the first time.
That was a good twist. That was a really good twist.
That was a really good twist.
Also,
and she's not just dead; she killed herself.
Also, like, one small little tiny detail that I love before that scene with Karen, when that happened. So Kanbru is like in bed after talking to Nomachi and being like, I guess it's like, I just leave it at that. It's not my business. Like, I'll end it here and not get involved any more than I have. And you have this very small detail of how, like, undressing herself, and she's like trying to like get the school uniform off of her in a very like peculiar way, and it's because she used to do it with the devil's arm, and she couldn't use her hand much, and she still didn't let go of the fact that she doesn't have that arm anymore, which is like, I like that detail. It's a really cool detail.
It's a nice little detail in the anime. Yeah, you're right.
But yeah, so Nomachi's dead.
Yeah, she's been dead for a while. So after her leg injury, which caused her to end her career, she got super, super depressed, left school, left town, and then slit her wrist right before graduation day.
Yikes.
Big yikes.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked.
Yeah.
And
so she's been talking to a ghost this whole time. Yet another apparition. It's an apparition essentially collecting another apparition.
throughout second season, we've built to this like idea of like the apparitions being more like, I don't know if sentient, but like more than just like, these like forces of nature. It's like interesting.
And it's almost as if because of the nature of how Broca died, like the misery that she was in, she can't essentially like pass on, for lack of a better term. So she's kind of stuck here.
Yeah. It's again someone who's just sort of like stuck in place to some extent.
So Kaworu does what every level-headed person does when they find out they've been talking to a ghost. She goes for a nighttime run.
I love that scene. How she just like goes hard. She like runs for it. She books it.
Yeah. I want to say like the running animation throughout this scene is like chef's kiss. It's all hand-drawn too.
I love the editing as well. Like how like the cut is sort of like tied to like her breathing pattern to some extent. I love that editing choice. It's so cool. So like getting in her head.
Yeah, it's some really good cinematography.
Yeah. And she just runs and runs and runs, and she leaves town, and she gets to
just like Forrest Gump. I kept running and running and running.
Pretty much, yeah. Until literally runs till she collapsed, and she, what do you know, collapses at a crossroad. The symbolism.
Yes.
Yeah, and
at a crossroads in her life, and who should find her? But the true hero of the Monogatari series.
The truest Chads of all.
A round car. No, so in the middle of this intersection, she meets Koyomi, who has... So we've talked about the Nisio Isin haircut before, right? Koyomi has the opposite. He's got the Nisio Isin hair growth.
I mean, we didn't mention, but also like Kanburo has this like really long hair right now, and which she is absolutely rocking, by the way. I love that look. But yeah, both of them with very long hair.
Yeah, both of them have the super long hair, and Koyomi's like, "Hey, get in. I'll take you back to town."
And I love like with like the first thing she talks about is how she was disappointed in him. She's like, you always talked about how your pure precious bicycle is your life or whatever, and now you're driving a car. And she's like, but it's so round.
It's so round.
Also, I love the Shinobu keychain is just mwah.
Yeah,
fantastic.
It's a great touch. And then they just have this conversation as they're driving back into town about all the her reservations, her insecurities about herself, how lonely she is now that both he and Hitagi are gone. Just about how like miserable she's been since they left, kinda. And
I love how she's like trying to like get her to understand, like, we miss you too. Like Hitagi really misses you as well. It's not. Yeah. It's okay to feel that way, And
it's also worth mentioning that it's said offhand, but the reason that they're off and away is because they're both at college together.
Which I fucking love. I just give me a whole like TV show, just a slice of life of Koyomi and Itagi just in college studying together.
What if I told you
for real
that Monster Season exists?
Please, Shaft, fucking give it to me.
But no, I love the conversation that they have on the way home, and it's like they're airing their grievances at each other, and it's like it's great. It's like it's almost like it's cathartic in a way what they're doing. And I just I love it. And I also love the fact that as they're driving back, there is a scene where they drive into a tunnel, right? Mm-hmm. And when they drive into the tunnel, it's night, but when they drive out, it's day. Well, it's not day. It's the sun it's just starting to come up.
Yeah.
And like the symbolism there that they've had this like conversation where they're airing out their differences. She's laying out kind of how miserable she is, and Koyomi is giving her some advice about how to kind of deal with some stuff. And then they come out of the tunnel, and the day is starting to just begin. It's literally like the symbolism of the start of a new day. Yeah. The light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I love that symbol.
Because she talks about like her dilemma. Like I love how she puts it. How like no one she is like she doesn't mention her name. She's like, I know this person who's like just happy about like being so like misfortunate. It's being so miserable, and she's like throughout this entire arc, like literally like her mother tells her what to do, and Kaiki tells her what to do. Nomachi tells her what to do. Like, people tell her to do this or that, like, stop running away or keep running away or whatever. And, like, and she just doesn't know what to do. And, like, and Araragi is like, just do whatever you want. Just do what you feels right to you. Like, if you have this, like, urge in you, something in you, just do it. And it's like,
just do it.
And it's like, it's funny because it's another person telling what to do, but it's putting in the way of, like, listen to your feelings, like what you feel, whether it's right or wrong.
What does your gut?
What does your gut tell you? And she knows what she needs to do. And then when she gets home, and she has that present.
Realization that by the time that she gets home, she knows what she needs to do. And she's greeted by a package when she gets home.
I wonder who gave it to her, because, like, previously in the arc, she calls Kaiki, but then hangs up the phone after a few rings. So I wonder who gave that.
Yeah, and then she opens it up, and there's a mummified head inside. I wonder who gave her this package.
As I rub my goatee.
As I rub my goatee and adjust my glasses. So no, that's pretty much the end of episode 4, and then we get to the final episode of this story arc, episode 5. Kanbaru is a little depressed, slightly. So she skips school until the 20th. So that's what, 10 days?
Oh,
that she doesn't go to school.
I think it was
nearly 10 days.
Wasn't we? I haven't wrote that down for myself. I think like the previous day was the 16th, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong.
Was it? Okay.
I think so.
Okay, though. Never mind. So let's say a little under a week.
Yeah.
She doesn't go to school, but then she does, and shock of shocks.
Specifically,
Roka's in the gym.
Yes, she specifically goes to the gym to meet up with Nomachi, and
because she has that realization that, wait a minute, if she's gonna meet me, that's where she's gonna meet me.
Yeah, and then when she realizes, she sees Kanbaru has the devil's head, which was inside the package, and she realized that Kaiki sort of like gave it to Kanbaru, and maybe Kaiki sort of orchestrated this like meeting to some extent.
Yeah. And then they have this conversation where Kanbaru comes to the realization that Roka doesn't know that she's dead.
Yeah.
She thinks she's still very much alive.
Yeah. And that happens right before they decide to do another basketball game for the head of the devil that Kanbaru just received. I love that part of like Roka's like, I don't need to take your deal. And Kanbaru is like, fuck, yeah, you do. Otherwise, I'm going to fucking smash a hammer into this. It's like, damn.
It's like, desperate times call for desperate measures. Watch me smash this head with a hammer.
And yeah, so then they proceed to have this, like, one final game. And I love the arena. I love, like, how the moment
it transforms
and I love because, like, the moment it starts to fill up with water is when Kanbaru realizes that Nomachi doesn't know she's dead, and the sort of like truth sort of like is like taking a toll on her. It's like makes her anxious because it's kind of like, fuck, how am I gonna tell her, because like she isn't even aware she's dead. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I always thought that the water was supposed to be like this, a reference to being baptized.
I think it was like the like how that realization is like. Just like makes her so like it's like a weight on her to some extent now, it's like drowning her.
I get it. I feel like there's a couple of different ways you could interpret the basketball court filling up with water.
Yeah, either way, that visual is just very, very striking. I love it.
I also like the fact that despite that they were essentially rivals, this is like their first official game that they've played against each other.
Mm-hmm. And I love how simple it is that Kanbaru wins that game. Like, she just tosses the ball right back at Nomachi, and then just takes it away from her and scores the slam dunk. I love that previously, like in a previous episode, Nomachi is like, so why didn't you never like do like a dunk? It's just like, oh, it feels kind of it feels like cheating. And Nomachi's like, hey, you cheated.
Hey, you cheated. Hey, I had to do what I had to do. I love the simplicity of how she's able to, because she knows that she's outmatched.
Yeah,
because she has both the leg and the arm.
Like a third. She was like a third of her body is like the devil's body.
Yeah, pretty much. And but she knows that like if they actually go 1-on-1, she's not going to win. So she had to come up with like a sort of a dishonest tactic, I guess you could say, in order to actually win the game. I've actually seen the way that she did that. I've seen it work in an actual basketball game.
Oh shit, really?
I've actually seen it happen where you're not, obviously a defenseman's not expecting to be passed the ball by, the other team. So you use it to distract them and then take the ball and go over their head. I've actually seen it happen in basketball games before. Now, granted, the only times I've ever actually seen it work is in high school basketball games, but still.
Nice. But yeah, so she wins the game.
Yeah, she wins the game. Aroka, I also love there's so much build up to it, and then it's over just like that.
It's very, very it's like very quick.
But Aroka accepts the defeat. And in her, like, I guess, final moments, she's, like, almost pleading with Kanbaru. It's like, hey, go back to basketball. You love the game. You don't have this hindrance of the monkey's paw anymore. You can do it. You've got this. You're obviously still in good shape.
Yeah, and I love how she sort of realizes that from that, like, very small exchange of just, like, Kanbaru passing the ball to her, and she's like, man, I was always, like, playing by myself basketball, but apparently it's a team game. And it's sort of, like, made her feel sad that like she was never able to be a part of that sort of team feeling, like camaraderie. She was always by herself alone.
Yeah. And she even mentions this in another conversation where like no one would ever pass her the ball.
That's right.
Well, it turns out now her opponent was the only one passing her the ball.
And yeah, and then she vanishes and leaves the devil's parts there behind her.
Yeah, and so like Kanbaru collects them, and then Kanbaru has this like realization about how jealous she was of Roka, and I think like that realization is like, man,
God damn it,
it's deep.
God damn, it's one of those deep anime moments. But yeah, and then we get to the sort of like the epilogue to some extent of Hanamonogatari.
Yeah, she has that like flashback again to the conversation with her mother, and her mother's echoing that whole thing about good and evil, medicine, poison, and she wakes up naked, and Koyomi's just standing over her.
Classic Koyomi, right?
Classic Koyomi.
And I love how she's like, she's like shocked at him watching her naked, which is a very different from most of the time when, like, literally, like, in Bakemonogatari, Kanbaru is like, oh, let's strip. And he's like, no! And I love how now she's shocked at Koyomi. He's like, don't worry, I'm more interested in my sisters.
Yeah, my man!
God damn it.
Yeah. And then they have that conversation about what should they do with all the devil parts? Which is a good question. They've obviously caused a bit of trouble thus far, but they also feel like, and Koyomi makes the argument that despite the fact that they could be used for evil, they're still cultural artifacts that should be at the very least put on display or given to an outfit that can do something about them. Keep them safe, and they shouldn't just be destroyed.
And then I love how he was like, maybe I should use them to wish so my sisters could be my stepsisters. So fucking stupid, dude. I love how like this arc like sometimes treats Araragi like in the first episode when Kanbaru goes to Itagi's like table and she reminisces about her, and then she texts Araragi. It's like one of the girl hears her talk about Araragi, so the girl's like, Araragi just fangirl all over him. So stupid.
Yeah, he was obviously quite popular.
He left a legacy behind him, I'm sure.
He left a legacy behind, which is what any high schooler can ask for, I suppose. But no, I love that conversation, how they go back and forth about what to actually do with the devil parts. And I also love that after this conversation, we have that cut to Koyomi cutting Kanbaru's hair.
I love that scene.
Back to having it short again.
Yeah, just like when he first met her.
Yeah. So normally with Nisio Isin stories, you don't actually get to see the Nisio Isin haircut. Like a character will have like this life-changing epiphany or realization, and off screen they'll cut their hair and they'll come back and you won't see it. This is the only one I think that you actually get to see happen.
I think you're correct. Yeah, pretty much.
And
I love that.
I love how he cuts that one little part off, and he's like, "Are you sure about this?" She's like, "Let's do it."
Yeah, I love Kangaroo with long hair. Not gonna lie, I think that's my favorite design of her from Hana.
I don't know. I have to disagree. I think that all the characters in Monogatari that we've seen with short hair look better with short hair. But maybe that's me because I actually prefer women with short hair.
I suppose, I don't know. I think Kangaroo rocks the long hair.
Well, let me be clear. I prefer tomboys with short hair.
Right, okay. I get it.
I actually do like long hair, but I like it on women who are not tomboys. And I think that Kangaroo definitely classifies as a tomboy.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, and that's pretty much how it ends. It sort of ends with there's this sort of monologue at the very end with Kangaroo telling us, the viewer, that she's going to go visit the grave, Roka's grave, and grant her wish of gathering the devil's parts for her sake.
Yeah.
And then I like the sort of like off the cuff statement that Koyomi makes about this. Like, there's going to be people that will question your decision, right? And Koyomi's like, yeah, you should ignore that.
And yeah, then that's the end. And then it cuts to the quote-unquote OP, last day of my adolescence, and you have this whole like context for this. Like, you have all these scenes of Kangaroo and Numachi together, and then when Numachi breaks her leg, she just like, she tears up and she cries in the rain, and it's very, very emotional. I love that ending. I love that ending so much.
I also like the obvious, the title of that is The Last Day of My Adolescence, and when she cuts her hair, that's obviously like the last day of her adolescence, and she has that realization that, people might not always agree with me, and I don't always have to do things that people agree with. I can make my own decisions.
Yeah.
And I think there's like that symbolism there that once you realize that is the last day of your adolescence. When you realize that you can live for your own sake and you don't have to always listen to the opinions or the wants and the wishes of others, and you can live your own life, that's when you're not an adolescent anymore.
I tell you, man, Hanamonogatari is fucking great. What a good arc.
I said this before, and I'll say it again. I think this is something that, while you might not like it as much as the other parts the first time, with subsequent rewatches, I am liking it more and more and more.
Yeah. Hanamonogatari is fantastic, for sure. It's great. It's a good time.
So yeah, that's all of second season done. We've done it.
We've done it.
We've gotten through second season.
No final season, and that's about it.
Yeah. Well, and Kizu.
And Kizu,
which
that's
is technically part of first season.
Kizu is going to be a lot of fun to go back to. I'm very, very excited. But that's in a bit. That'll be in a bit.
So, this has been Hanamonogatari. So next is going to be the first part of the final season, which is Tsuki Monogatari.
Whoop!
So it's been quite a while since I've watched Tsuki Monogatari, so it's going to be really... And I remember, the one thing I do remember about it is I actually genuinely liked it, even though it's, for a lot of people, they say they're one of their least favorite parts of the Monogatari series.
I'll give it credit. One of the best openings in the series is from Tsuki.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It'll be great. I'm really excited to go back to watch it.
I am super, super excited for that. I'm also just shocked that we have spent less than an hour and a half talking about Hanamonogatari.
We restrained ourselves.
We did. This is a long time coming, but I'm glad we finally got it done.
Yeah.
And I really hope that that all of you out there who have been listening to this have been really enjoying our trip through the Monogatari series, because Natai and I have been having an absolute blast rewatching this and talking about it.
Yeah, thanks for bearing with us rambling about an anime we love.
But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you all for dropping out. Let me try that again. Thank you all out there
Nice.
for dropping in to listen to us. Easy for me to say. Check the description below where you can find links to Anime Club After Dark on Twitch, on social media, and on Discord. We do stream multiple times a week, so definitely hit us up on Twitch. We also do stream here on our YouTube channel as well. So check us out there if that is where you would prefer to watch us. We also have a merch store where any purchases you make there do really, really help us out. And yeah, with that, I've been your host, Alex, and I will see you next time. Say goodnight, and it's I.
Yeah, so have you been thinking about eating meat lately?
Meat.
Miku.
Meat.
Miku. Papa Kaiki, feed me.
Oh, Daddy, more meat.
Oh my god.